Oh, hi, my beauties, my beautiful, everyday, powerful, powerful women. My heart is throbbing these days, you guys, and I'm just so thrilled that I can deliver yet another message while I'm going through some shakeups in my personal life. So, welcome, 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 my beauties, my darling angels, to Powerful Inc.'s Startup Stories, the podcast where women who are seeking more of themselves through purpose and business are heard, held, and served, bringing you relatable stories to keep you sane, grounded, and growing as you deliver your purpose and grow your business. You guys, today, Anna VanAgtmael is joining me from Wandering Roots, a women's retreat business. I mean, that is days of conversation in of itself. A beautiful, really heart, spirit created entity to hold space for what we really need. We have jobs, we have kids, we have spouses, we have demands, we have self-judgment and pressure. And then to go and be in a space with each other in true sisterhood, in true reverence of life, of spirit, of bigger, and not in like a Taylor Swift bigger way. Fun fact, side note, Anna was just in Vancouver for T Swift last weekend. So great. We're all spreading together. But Anna has built this 6-year-old company, which synchronicity was the year that I had Georgia. She built this as a result of do through life, do as a lab tech in a very data heavy, very controlled type of environment, predictable and similar day in, day out. And
Mhm.
then, oh, life at her, darn it. And that was a bit of our preamble and where we want to go with you a little bit today. Life's going to life at you and shake you. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do when that happens? Or what are you going to do if that doesn't happen? Because we don't wish this on anyone. We don't wish
No, no.
divorce, death, dismemberment,
Yes, no.
financial
These are all things people actively avoid, right?
pain. So answer the call. And Anna, take us through the journey, take us through who you were, who you are. Let's have this conversation. Welcome, welcome, welcome to my space
Thank
and my.
you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for that lovely intro. I think that's the best one I've ever been a part of. So thank you. um, so I'll give you the Cliff Notes. I was in a lab manager role for, well, I was in a molecular diagnostics field for 13 years, and the last 7 of those I built a lab. And when I got hired to build this lab, I got I got the opportunity to be an entrepreneur with no financial risk. And that was something that the seed was first planted. I had never thought of that. I had never considered that before. And but I I built the space with like the blueprints with the contractors. I hired the staff. I bought the equipment. I managed the inventory, wrote the policies, things like that. And it empowered me like no other challenge that I had had. And right before that, I was actively seeking a new challenge, but I wasn't thinking that big. I was just thinking, I don't really like my boss. I'm kind of bored. I just need to do something different. But I was so linear thinking and staying in the same field. So once I got that job, I also had to have neck surgery, and I was 28. I'm now 40, so this is quite a while ago. So this is why I can speak about this incident with so much ease and light and not tears and, whatever. So anyways, it was the first pause in my life. I was in a neck brace for 4 months. I had nothing but time. I wasn't allowed to drive, do anything, go to work. And it was humbling to be that I felt broken for sure. And it was just so humbling to just have all of your to have to be cared for on like a level that I thought only happened to old people, like way in the distance. So I sort of felt my own mortality and was like, shit, this is it. I get one life and I want to be jazzed about it. Like I want to be jazzed about it. I want to get up excited every day. I still don't know if I do that. I'm not really a morning person, but I'm still actively more excited. And so anyways, I would say the most humbling part of that messy part of my life is just realizing that I had done what I set out to do. I was just in this hamster wheel of achieve, achieve, achieve. Very practical, doing, you know, seeking out a career in something that would have given me stability and healthcare for the rest of my life. There's always going to be jobs, and I had achieved more success financially and on a promotional level than I ever thought possible. And I still hated it. And I felt a lot of guilt and shame in that. And I also had no idea what I wanted to do. I never even thought about what I wanted to do. So I read Shonda Rhimes' A Year a Yes. If you haven't read it and you're sort of in a stuck period, it's a good one to read. It's a quick read. But she talks about how she was never participating in her life. She just said no to everything because she was just everything was just made her nervous or it felt outside of her comfort zone. So she just was in this like safe spiral. And so she made a commitment for 1 year to say yes to everything that terrified her. And so I tried yoga. I did a boudoir shoot with my now best friend who is a photographer on our retreats. I was traveling a lot. Um, but I started traveling more international and going by myself. And yeah, that's the short version. I just started doing things outside of my comfort zone. And I would like to say that when you do that, you should actively participate in enough times where you don't feel like a dumb beginner. But if you get to a point where it just doesn't serve you, just quit. There's so much power in quitting if it just, people have a hard time with that too. So, anyways, that's it.
Timeline then, the year of yes started before Wandering Roots,
Yes.
right?
So I, like a coward, okay, so I tried to quit my job two different times. Once was like probably a year after my surgery because again, I was still navigating like chronic pain and I had just built this thing. So I was navigating like building it and I just didn't have the space or the energy. I knew like it was still this seed planted that was growing, but I wasn't giving it much time or attention. And then I took yoga teacher training and I started meeting more like entrepreneurs. And I was in a space with that I'd never been before. I think a lot of us are trying to be loved and accepted for who we are, not who we're trying to be, just who we are as beings. And that was the first space being there with 11 women that were all strangers that I felt that type of acceptance. And I wanted to recreate that vibe. And so I was just holding on to like that feeling in that environment. And later I thought I could combine my love with travel and like teach yoga and create that atmosphere for people to just show up and be whoever they wanted to be and do some self exploration. So, anyways, I tried to quit the first time and I was given a $40,000 raise for the year. And so I took the money and I, like a coward, went to my husband and I said, I think you should start your own landscape business. I'll figure out all of the things we don't know how to do. But if you're going to work that many hours, I think you should work for yourself. So we did that for a year, and that fed my soul for a while, but it still didn't feel enough like my own thing. And so the next year, I side hustled Wandering Roots for 2 years while I still worked at the lab. Um, Mostly because I didn't want to like modify my lifestyle. I still really I had a lot of time freedom and I had a lot of financial freedom and I was just shoveling money away to take the big leap. And then I quit in October of 2019 and then I had canceled all of my retreats in 2020. And the lab asked me to come back twice for COVID testing and I said no. I just wasn't interested in going back, but I thought about it. It would have been the easier choice, but I just felt like I was being tested, and this was like the final test, and it was difficult. But I'm glad I said no.
So guys, she worked for 2 years building Wandering Roots while holding on to that job. And I did
Yeah.
not hold that because online will sell fast success
Yeah.
and we move at our pace. Our pace is our pace. If we're in a
I
marathon,
agree.
we're finishing number one and finishing last, but they're finishing. So
Agree.
take that pressure off and do what's going to feel safe for you as you say more yes. The other really beautiful thing in what you've shared, Anna, is it didn't start all of a sudden, right? Like it all
No.
together. There was a life event, there was a book, there was some spiritual expansion, and then that started to just continuously vibrate, right? And bring forward more forward thinking into what else is possible. What else is,
Totally.
well,
It
look,
it feels more like it was a 5-year journey. Just for like the audience. Like, and I agree with you. You're on your own journey. You're on your own path. It doesn't matter what everybody's doing on their path. It's just your path. Just focus on that. Comparison can be the thief of joy, and things take time.
things take time to really, you guys build something that's like generating $10,000 a month, say, takes time, takes professionalism, and takes
Hmm.
crafting a part of yourself that you haven't yet used, right?
Yes.
So again, like you, Anna, got to look at real life evidence and skill development through work and then leverage that and then tested comfortably, but like I like to call it safe discomfort by having
Yes.
a landscape business, right? And
Yeah.
then further from there. So, like, we're not starting from zero when we want to start a business, but we are
Yeah.
new that is different. And a job provides the work, right? A business,
Hmm.
go and get the work. So you want to build that skill and that professionalism for yourself and for the people that you're serving until it's kind of churning at a sustainable level so that you're not, I'm not,
100%.
you're not putting yourself at risk or your family at risk as you.
Yeah. Also, leaving a field in molecular diagnostics in corporate and then going and being a retreat host. I wasn't even on social media. I literally built an audience from scratch, and that was probably the hardest part, to be honest, for me. I went from writing very like journal published articles, just very data centric. Here are the facts, and then having to write copy, and it was like a unlearning to a learning before. So just to make a post on Instagram, it was tough. And it was like the first time I was really doing something for me that I wanted to do so it was more emotional to like put myself out there. And back in 2018, I just started blogging a lot. I started blogging about how radically changing your life isn't really supported by your inner circle like you think it's going to be, and how hard it is, and just how much introspection has to happen for you to move forward.
So in starting to cultivate wandering roots, would it be fair to say that you were exploring a new part of yourself that had been awakened post birth?
100%. I was asleep before. So, like, you asked something in the beginning about what would have happened if you didn't. And I would just be asleep going through the motions. I would be like, from the exterior, I'd look fine. I'd look successful from, certain standards, but I was dying a slow death for sure. And I on the outside of stepping into like this new version of me, it looked like I was having a midlife crisis for sure. There were so many tears and just uncertainty, and yeah, just a lot of like the messy bits that we try to, you know, I grew up very I don't know if this is the way to just stoically, just containing it always. It's still honestly some undoing work on my part, especially holding space for people that show up in our vulnerable and retreat. I think that I'm a good listener and I'm approachable and I'm proud of that, but I still sometimes have this stoic, like professional shell that I'm trying to chip away at little by little.
Well, we get accustomed to the way that we learn to navigate in the world, right?
Yeah,
And so it does take um, curiosity and practice to
yeah.
shift that.
And awareness, right? Like when you're doing it and like how you just show up and that's like an automatic response. Yeah.
Yeah, and while we can read or journal or meditate on these things, what I've found is until we're put in a uncontrolled situation or a trigger or the live time,
Yeah,
don't reproduce any of that other physiological reaction until we're in that moment, right? So, but you
totally.
can start to build your awareness that you're kind of watching yourself as you're doing what you just spoke to, as to, oh, I realize I'm being a bit, of this um, more familiar version of myself than the
Yeah.
one I'm becoming. And so, how did your life start to change and how did your marriage change? Like, were you with your husband at age 28?
Yeah, I got married super young, at 23. I never thought I would get married that young. I never was seeking a partner. I wasn't that woman. And honestly, I was a little bit like, oh God, is this challenging all of my life visions for myself? I thought I'd be an independent 30-year-old, you know? I am still independent, and so is he, so that's why it works. But I will say when I sort of had this grand awakening and got a little more into spirituality with yoga and then doing the work of trying to figure out how I wanted my life to look, there was this lag of he didn't have that traumatic event. He didn't have I will say he was rock solid supportive. Like even though I thought that somebody should tell me to just like suck it up and move on, or like be like, God, what is happening? Do you need to seek some psychotic help or something? He just was like, if you want to make a change, I will support you. And so that was enough. And then later, when I really got into teaching, I just was creating this community of new friends and people that I considered to be more in the same like awakeness as I was. And I I just remember one day asking him not to like start doing yoga or inner work because I realized like everybody's trajectory is different. And again, my awakening happened from a physical, trauma. I just wanted him to be a part of that part of my life. I wanted him to meet those people in whatever capacity he felt comfortable and start spending time with them because our lives, even though we are independent and we have very separate things that we do, they're still intertwined in the way that we support each other. So that he was like, sure. I wouldn't say that it was happened overnight. It took time to like, figure out meetups and things like that. And he was a little uncomfortable at first because we all knew each other and he didn't. But those are the people that we have both leaned on in both of our businesses. And it was before we started Red Cedar and the landscape company. And when he started Red Cedar, he also went through a lot of introspection and tackling his limiting beliefs. So that all came eventually. It just wasn't right initially. So yeah, we're still together, been married 17 years, and he's my favorite. I'm lucky.
It's a beautiful way to navigate and hold space for being at different places on your journey.
Yeah.
And um, sharing yours with him as like a leader, as this, you go first type of thing. But I love that you said, I laid off on, this pressure expectation that I'm doing this spiritual awakening. You should do it too. And let's just
Yes.
keep going and we gotta leave it
Yes.
because who wants that? And
It's very unfair. Yeah.
but when you start to reap the results of that and start showing up, more and more in your truest self, then that can very much inspire and move somebody else, particularly if they still want to stay with you and see that
Yeah.
you could continue to then evolve together or potentially evolve away from each other.
And that has happened. I've had a lot of relationships where that has happened. And it's been years now at this point. But in the beginning, it felt like there was a lot of loss and there was a lot of grief. But again, it's unfair to expect people to grow and evolve at the same rate as you. We're all living very different experiences and seeing the world and ourselves in very different ways. And so the whole quote of like friends are like a reason, a season, or lifetime or something. I'm saying it wrong, but I really got into the seasonality of life. It's easier to like when I think of them, I just send them love, and it's okay to be sad too and mourn a little bit like for what was, but it's also it wasn't serving either of us in those situations. So it's an act of love to just let it go. So
Well, and you can live for them and try to hold
mhm.
on, or really live for yourself and accept
Yeah.
that it's moving on. And like
Yep.
so much of our lives change whether we want it or not. And if we can hold space for that in our hearts, then we can hold space for more, right?
Yeah, totally.
With you and like you say, lovingly, but detached at that point because it's served its purpose. Like we throw out rotten food. So
Yeah, it's true.
I'm calling our loved ones rotten food, okay? Not saying that's my analogy.
Some of them feel like bad eggs after a while, though. No, just kidding. But yeah, no, I get it.
Even looking at past versions of myself, I can't even believe that I was like that. You know,
Same.
I can't even believe that I was like that. Like, how does it feel, Anna, to say molecular diagnostics? Now, like I just lost
Yeah. It
position.
just doesn't even matter. It used to matter so much to me. It doesn't matter at all. And like I used to always like when I would meet people, I'd ask them what they do. I don't give a shit. Like, I want to know what lights you up, whether or not you're financially pursuing that as your purpose or not. I just want to know what you find purpose and passion in. That's it. I don't care. Yeah.
It's
I
like
don't care where you've been either. I love traveling too, but I don't care if you've been, unless you have a great travel story. There's a ton of them out there. But otherwise, like, I'd rather just know what makes you tick and what you're passionate about.
that's like the true, I don't know, soul or spirit identity of one's
Yeah.
right? Above all this materialistic crap, all these fleshy desires.
Yes.
What is your heart? What is your soul? And
Totally.
that conversation and that dimension of existence all about.
Yeah. We on retreats, we let everybody introduce themselves, and most people say their roles or responsibilities and things like that. And then when everyone's done, I make everybody go around and say three things they love about themselves. It could be your hair, it could be that you're resilient, anything. Just three things that make you you, that you love about yourself. Those are my favorite parts. And some people have a very hard time doing it. And some people don't, and some people really like get a kick out of thinking about it for the first time. So it's one of my favorite parts. It's a good experiment.
I'm gonna go kind of a little sideways, maybe, not really, but like
Let's do it.
North on your labels, right? And
Wait, say it again. You cut out for a second.
North American culture is very much on your label.
Oh,
So,
yes, we are.
and I get that, our parents' generation coming out of the industrial,
Yep.
all of that. But other cultures, other places in the world, way less so. And
Yeah.
there's beauty then in traveling where you can go and experience that very authentically and let it push on you to reach
Yes.
some of the things I'm not going to abdicate personal responsibility in anything, but I'm going to encourage fresher perspectives to what we think we know and spread it into like this global context and then this universal or spiritual context, so that we can lift up. Because again, the everyday woman with kids, a job, an entrepreneurial spirit, we're still striving to be something or to achieve something. And
Totally.
like this conversation so beautiful to encourage you to really find out who you be and let that lead into doing. And the entrepreneurial achievement doesn't have to be anything wildly sensational or huge.
Totally.
It can continue to be a so-called side hustle if one desires.
Mhm.
It just is a way to fulfill that piece of your heart that needs to.
Agree. Have you ever read Big Magic? I think it's called, Elizabeth Gilbert. She writes a whole book on how before she wrote Eat, Pray, Love, she was I think a waitress, and she wanted a job where she could just show up, do the work, and not take it home with her, and then be able to create her art with zero pressure. So she paid for her expenses, and she was just allowed to create from a place of wanting to, from creativity and inspiration. And it's a beautiful just summary of like what you were talking about, of like this striving, this achieving, this whatever, just taking the pressure off to create just for the sake of creating, maybe destroying it later and seeing how you feel, just it's just a different concept to the way the majority of people live, especially in America, like you said, which is one of also my favorite things about travel, is just seeing how other people live. It challenges me. It challenges where I find resistance, like within myself still, and there's always something you can take home and integrate into your environment and your daily routine and just make it better, because people live differently.
Yeah, like the on our last breath, for us to look back into how we became bigger or we became more. Not that we had more, that we were more, right? And that we really lived. And so again, it looks different for everybody. Um, but that pursuit of your heart to be held in tender and spacious way so that you can really enjoy it and not attach any expected outcome.
Totally. Yes.
Wow. And so I'll share some of my reflection that's coming through in this. My day job is a bylaw officer, which means that when neighbors complain about each other, I get to go in and say, share your toys, clean your yard, fire, else.
You're like a kindergarten teacher. You're just teaching people kindness that are not that age.
And some of them have more money than I will ever amass in my lifetime. And it's wild. But the beautiful thing about my current employer, it's been the reverse. Instead of me growing an online coaching business to escape, the online coaching business has expanded me to be more of that pure version of myself at work.
Yeah.
So that is like this real osmosis of this being that we're talking about, because I don't want it to be a intangible concept or a metaphysical concept. It very much is how we are, with great awareness, consciousness, choosing to show up. So I'm very
Yes.
current employer is the ultimate, Disneyland place where I can be fully expressed. But there was opportunity for that previous as well, because I've been in this industry for 10 years. And what's really freeing in that is I get to see more of myself more often and then play and experiment with that. And that then leads to a state of empowerment everywhere, everywhere.
Yeah. It just leaks into the rest of your life. Totally.
Don't need necessarily to get to a place or an outcome in order to start living in the results that we think that outcome will provide.
Totally. I 100% agree.
So Anna, take us, like, you go through these huge, huge life changes. You get the tantalizing, delicious, like addictive spiritual awakening, and you're like, ah! And then as you're ready, COVID comes in.
Yeah.
What happens? You know, we think, I hear a lot, I feel like the universe is testing me. And it's a good way to kind of chew on how committed to yourself
Mm.
and what you say you're going to do with this one life are you?
Yeah, that was it. It was challenging me on a human level to I was showing up in my brand asking people to live a life they want and telling everybody it was accessible. And I 100% agree with you that it it can it can look wildly different for everybody. Like you can find purpose in your day job or you can find purpose in your side hustle or you can find purpose in your family and just have these are all just extracurricular activities. But I felt like I was a little bit of a hypocrite in 2019 of just pursuing my passion with the brand, but like almost killing myself. I was still managing a lot of things for the landscape company and doing all of the Wandering Roots things by myself, and then still working 40 hours for the lab. And also on a leadership level, I felt like I had checked out and I didn't feel like I was serving my employees. It wasn't like I was doing a bad job, and I'm not like a perfectionist, but I just felt that I wasn't showing up in the way that they deserved. So, all that to say that I when COVID happened, I knew like financially it would be a lot easier for me, but all of those things that were sort of eating away at me wouldn't go away. I would still feel like I was checked out to my employees. My heart wouldn't be in it. And so so I always say the universe nudges and then she might slap you across the face if you've ignored her too many times. Yeah, listen, yeah.
Doing all my
And yes. And so for the first 2 years, a lot of people would ask if I would plan their retreat. And I was like, absolutely not. I have no clue what I'm doing. No, And so I'm like, okay, there's obviously a need for this. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel a void of like something that they were once looking for. And I also believe if you want to host a retreat, you are super passionate about whatever life-changing material has come through you. So I want more of that in the world. So I want to be a part of it in some capacity. So I made a digital course and then I created like a package, like a service to just do it for people that just want to show up and do their content and not DIY it. So I'm like, I got all year. I'm like, I have space, I have time, like do something magical with it. So that sort of shifted my business slightly. It sort of took a while to take off because, people were still a little afraid of gathering and things for a while. It really helped my brand as far as my retreats. People were like ready to go. They had been waiting. Um, I having a medical field was very like on top of like COVID testing and keeping everybody safe. And so it really like ended up, benefiting me in the long run. And then probably by I'd say last year is when I started really taking on clients and planning theirs. And honestly, it's been like chatting like this, like getting to know some of your story. And it's the most fun ever. It's really lovely. And then just helping this like dream thing that you might be like we talked about. Sometimes you're thinking about it for 5 years before you do it. It's just like making that happen is really, really gratifying. So
Yeah, so we're layering in different things to what's existing. And eventually it comes, what's my analogy going to be? Brimming to the top. And we're either going to try to keep the lid on it of our existing,
yep.
know it, but it's brimming and it's trying to get out. And it's just like sharpening,
Yeah.
teetering was the word that came to mind when we were sharing that. Or see what happens if you take the lid off,
Yes.
let it go and just be
Yeah.
again, when we die, what do we want to look back at? What do we want to look
See, so that's my biggest fear too. I have a bigger fear of getting to the end and regretting not trying something, not taking a shot on myself, not taking a risk. And so that makes me way less risk averse on these other things because that's so much heavier for me. I had a woman that showed up once to like just an event that I was teaching yoga at and asked how I became fearless. And I was like, I am not. What? I'm just like thinking like, what did I put online that like made somebody think that? But like I sat with it and thought about it and I'm like, no, I, because my husband's very risk averse as well. So I'm usually the one like nudging him or whatever, maybe pushing. But I think it's that. I don't want to live with regrets. I want to give it a try. And I also always ask myself, what is the worst that could happen? And if it's not financial ruin or death, let's just give it a shot.
versus fearlessness, right? It's willingness. And, financial,
Um,
like money can recover. You can recover.
yeah, it can. And a lot of people hit rock bottom before they figure it out, right? So it's used like it can be a motivator. So yeah, it's not the end of the world.
And it may feel like it, but, um, you know, most of us and the listeners were young. They were midlife, which I believe, and so five in my
Not me. I'm gonna live to 100. I'm not mid yet.
9, so I've got good genes. I'm like, I'm rooting. We get kind of very um focused and attached to just right now. And so
Mhm.
and that reverse engineering of the last day to now, how much does this matter a year from now, 10 years from now, and let's go 40 years from now when we're still young at 80, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's where the nervous system regulation, the safety net, the playfulness and curiosity can come in that, we live one day at a time, but then life is all of those days collectively put together, right? And so that's where I want to encourage people to cast that field and um, to just enjoy the present while you know that you're part of a much longer and ongoing future. So we're kind of coming up, to a good place to close, although I could just keep talking to you forever.
We can do that later. We can have coffee together virtually. That's fine. Because I feel the same.
But let's Anna, like tell us, how do you feel about yourself now to who you were? Like looking back at who you were, what's that reflection and that thank you to that version.
Yeah, I'm grateful for her. She kicked ass. She worked hard. She set me off on a good starting place. She also was the first version that was willing to try something different and take some leaps and things. So I don't ever really love the phrase burning your life down. I think you're just peeling back the layers to find out who you really are and just getting like real with yourself. And every layer is important. This isn't my final version of me either. I'll look back on this version in 10 years and still be proud of her and I'm grateful for her as well. So I'm I am just a genuinely happy person. I would say this has been a pretty challenging year, but I'm still genuinely happy with most of my choices and things. And I'm also conscious enough to know that there's just seasons to life. There's highs and there's lows, and you know that you're in a season as well that I'm rooting for you. But I I just think if I could tell each version of myself, it would always just be keep going. If you're not making the same mistakes, you're doing it right. Always believe in yourself and love yourself. That's a big one. So no matter what.
That's wise, and that ties in who we are to who we were to who we are and to who we will be yet. Right?
Hmm.
I think those words that you just shared are probably your future version sharing that to your present self.
Totally. Yeah.
Beautiful. So share with us how can we follow you and get into your
Yeah. We're a very sarcastic, fun group, so retreats that don't suck. If you go there, there's a free travel guide. I've done a lot of the actually Banff and Jasper in Canada, not too far from you, Mia, but a lot of US national parks, you can get a free travel guide if you sign up to be on our list, and then check out where we're traveling next year for retreat: Belize, Iceland, Italian Dolomites. And then if you're interested in hosting your own retreat and you'd like some support, moneymakingretreats.com. I've never worked with anybody that is interested solely in making money on their retreat, but I believe it is the only way to be able to do multiple ones continuously. So we work on the numbers so that it energetically works for you to do it again, but we also work way more on the content. So
Beautiful. That's amazing. And we'll share your links, but you're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn.
yep. Oh yeah. I'm slowly leaving social media, but I'm still there. You can catch me once in a while. I like this in-person chatting more. I think we're moving away from it as a society and I'm here for it. But yeah, you can check me out. There's a lot of good videos of how we laugh a lot on retreat and just some other information you can go dig in there.
Awesome. Well, thanks. This has been absolutely delicious. Pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.